Hard to believe it's the first time ever in Super Bowl history that two brothers are playing against one another.
I did not know how to talk to girls.
You were awkward. You were uncomfortable. Travis would sit on the countertop with the cookie jar open, chocolate chips smeared all over his face.
America sees trophies. America sees Super Bowls. America sees Travis and Jason Kelce standing on the biggest stages in sports. But almost nobody asks what their father lost to make that possible. This story doesn't begin with football. It begins with sacrifice, the kind that never gets repaid. While the world celebrates two NFL legends, there was a father quietly losing pieces of his own life. Time, comfort, peace, dreams that never had room to grow. He wasn't chasing greatness for himself. He was carrying it for someone else. Every decision came with a cost. Every sacrifice came without applause. This isn't a story about touchdowns. It's a story about what disappears when you dedicate your life to raising champions. Because behind every great success is something taken, quietly, from someone who never asks to be remembered. Stay with this story. By the end, you'll understand why greatness always leaves something behind.
Used to do a lot of work in steel mills.
Before we move on, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you never miss any of our upcoming documentaries. Before fame entered the Kelce household, pressure already lived there. Cleveland Heights wasn't built for dreams. It was built for survival. And survival demanded trade-offs. Their father learned early that raising two driven sons meant letting go of himself. Long hours at work replaced personal ambitions. Free time disappeared. Stability came before happiness. He didn't lose one big thing at once. He lost himself slowly. Missed moments. Delayed goals. A life rearranged around responsibility. While other parents planned vacations, he planned schedules. While others rested, he worried. Injuries. Bad influences. Failure. One mistake could erase years of effort. He carried that fear alone. Because fathers don't get permission to break down. He wasn't building memories for himself. He was building armor for his sons. And every layer of that armor cost him something personal. Something no highlight reel will ever show.
Was a bricklayer of sorts and did a lot of work in that line as a contractor.
Raising elite athletes sounds powerful. In reality, it's isolating. Their father became the constant while everything else changed. He absorbed frustration so his sons could stay focused. He accepted being misunderstood, being seen as strict, being seen as distant. Discipline costs connection before it earns respect. There were moments his relationship with Travis strained. Moments where Jason questioned the pressure. Moments when silence replaced warmth. And that silence wasn't weakness, it was survival. Because if he softened too early, the world would harden them later. He lost emotional comfort, so his sons could gain resilience. He chose long-term strength over short-term approval. That loss doesn't show up on stat sheets, but it lives in every difficult decision he made alone. Fathers like him don't disappear from history. They disappear into responsibility.
Their mother was a very successful banker in Cleveland.
Jason Kelce didn't always believe in himself. There were doubts about his body, his future, his limits. In those moments, his father didn't rescue him emotionally. And that choice came with a cost. Being honest instead of comforting creates distance. But he believed truth builds durability. He watched his son struggle without stepping in to soften the pain. That restraint cost him peace of mind. It cost him the comfort of reassurance. But it gave Jason something stronger than encouragement: endurance. Watching your child suffer without interference is one of the hardest losses a parent accepts. Yet that lesson stayed with Jason. Long before leadership speeches and Super Bowl moments, he learned how to stand alone under pressure. That strength didn't come free. It was purchased with a father's silence.
Two boys, 35-33.
Travis Kelce's talent was undeniable, but so were his mistakes. Discipline issues, suspensions, moments where his future felt fragile. This is where the loss deepened. Their father could have protected him, could have blamed others, could have softened consequences. Instead, he stepped back, and that distance hurt. Watching your child fall, knowing you could intervene, takes emotional sacrifice. He allowed failure to teach what words couldn't. That choice cost trust temporarily. It strained their bond, but forced growth. Travis learned accountability the hard way. Years later, he would admit those moments changed everything. His father didn't lose control. He surrendered comfort so responsibility could take its place. That sacrifice shaped a champion, but it also left quiet scars no one ever applauded.
It's somebody's going to go home with another ring and somebody's going to go home pissed off.
Somewhere along the way, their father stopped being seen as a person. He became a role, a provider, a disciplinarian, a background figure. His own identity slowly faded behind responsibility. He wasn't introduced by his name anymore, only by what he produced. The father of two athletes, the man behind the work. His interests disappeared. His ambition shrank. Life narrowed into schedules, rules, and pressure management. That kind of loss is quiet but permanent. You don't notice it happening. One day you realize there's no space left for who you once were. He didn't resent it. He accepted it. Because when you're raising future men, you don't get to stay one yourself. He sacrificed individuality so his sons could discover theirs. And while the world would later celebrate Travis and Jason for being unique, their father lived with the quiet truth that someone else had to disappear first.
I guess it would be maybe different if neither one of them had a Super Bowl ring and this was the fight to get the first one.
Before his sons chased NFL dreams, he had dreams of his own, goals that never fully formed because responsibility arrived early. Careers you don't pursue don't fail loudly, they dissolve. One practical choice replaces another until passion no longer fits into the schedule. He postponed ambition for stability, delayed fulfillment for structure. Over time, delay became denial, and denial became normal. That's the cost no one warns fathers about. You don't just give up time, you give up possibility. He watched his sons grow into opportunities he never had room to chase, and he didn't envy them. He protected them, but protection comes at a price. The life he might have lived slowly slipped away, not through failure, but through commitment. And when success finally arrived in his household, it belonged to his sons. His reward was knowing the sacrifice worked, even if his own dreams never did.
Right now I'm a professional bum.
When the Kelce brothers reached the NFL, the story became simple for the public. Talent, work ethic, opportunity. Few mentioned the man who absorbed decades of pressure without recognition. He didn't stand at podiums. He didn't give viral interviews. He wasn't framed as a hero. He was background, necessary, but uncelebrated. And that kind of invisibility stings more than criticism, because criticism means you were seen. His contribution was assumed, not acknowledged. He didn't correct the narrative. He didn't step forward. He let silence continue. But silence doesn't erase effort. It only hides it. While the world applauded results, he lived with the quiet knowledge that his fingerprints were everywhere, even if his name was nowhere. Recognition wasn't denied because he failed. It was denied because he succeeded quietly.
I hang out in Philly with my granddaughters whenever I can. And
Strong fathers learn how to disappear emotionally, not because they don't feel, but because feeling openly becomes a liability. Their father learned to regulate everything: fear, pride, anxiety, relief. He couldn't afford emotional volatility, so he shut it down. Over time, that restraint became habit, and habit became distance. He was present physically, but guarded internally. Conversations stayed practical. Praise stayed measured. Vulnerability stayed hidden. That emotional containment helped his sons thrive. But it cost intimacy. There are connections you can't fully rebuild once silence becomes the norm. He accepted that trade, because someone had to remain steady when emotions ran high. He carried feelings so his sons wouldn't have to. That kind of emotional loss isn't dramatic. It's subtle, and it follows you long after the job is done.
over at Jason's property, we do a little gardening, retired essentially.
As success surrounded his sons, a quiet question lingered. Not spoken, not acknowledged, just present. When all of this is over, will anyone remember what it took? Not the trophies, not the headlines, the unseen cost, the nights without rest, the choices without applause. He didn't need credit. But he wondered if his sacrifice would vanish once the cheering stopped. Fathers like him don't ask to be celebrated. They just fear being erased. History remembers winners. It rarely remembers builders. And that realization settles in slowly. He didn't regret the sacrifice. He feared its invisibility. Because legacy isn't about being famous. It's about being known. And silence, no matter how strong, risks being forgotten.
And later on as a sales representative.
There was a moment he never talks about. A moment when the weight felt heavier than his control. Not during a loss. Not during failure. But during uncertainty. When outcomes were unclear. When effort didn't guarantee results. Watching two sons chase a dream that could disappear with one injury tested everything. He felt fear rise, sharp, immediate, overwhelming. The kind that tightens your chest and steals sleep. For a second, silence felt fragile, like it could crack. But he held it, because if he broke, everything else would follow. Fathers like him don't collapse publicly. They compartmentalize. They absorb. They move forward. That moment passed without witnesses. No one noticed. No one asked. But something shifted. He understood then that this path would demand more than sacrifice. It would demand emotional endurance without relief. And once you accept that, there's no turning back.
And that's like that, excuse my French, that's a holy shit moment if there ever was one.
Success doesn't erase strain. It exposes it. As his sons moved closer to greatness, distance quietly formed. Not because of conflict, but because of roles. They became athletes. He remained infrastructure, necessary but unseen. Conversations changed. Time together shrank. Their worlds expanded while his narrowed. That gap wasn't dramatic. It was gradual, and gradual losses are the hardest to explain. He watched from the outside as their lives accelerated. Interviews, travel, expectations, pride mixed with displacement. He didn't belong in those rooms anymore. And that realization hurt more than failure ever could. He had done his job too well, prepared them to leave him behind emotionally. That's the paradox of fatherhood. If you succeed, you become less needed. And for the first time, silence didn't feel like strength. It felt like absence.
And as it turns out, that work wasn't very hard. That work was a lot of fun.
He never confronted the distance. He didn't demand gratitude, didn't express resentment, because restraint had become survival. Speaking up risked burdening his sons, and burden was the one thing he refused to pass on. So he stayed consistent, supportive, quiet, even when loneliness settled in. That restraint took discipline equal to anything his sons learned on the field. Holding back emotion requires strength most people never practice. He chose to remain the stable base, even if it meant standing alone. He reminded himself that this wasn't abandonment. It was outcome, the price of doing the job right. Fathers like him don't ask to be included. They ask whether the work held. And in moments of doubt, he looked at who his sons had become. Grounded, resilient, prepared. That was the answer.
The realization that, whether you like it or not, you're a grown-up.
At some point, he understood something irreversible. This chapter of his life would never be acknowledged the way others are. There would be no ceremony, no formal recognition, no closing moment. His role would quietly end without announcement. And that realization landed heavy. Because humans need closure, even strong ones, especially strong ones. He had invested everything into a process with no guarantee of acknowledgement. And still, he would do it again. That's what made the sacrifice real. Not obligation, choice. He accepted that his legacy wouldn't be spoken loudly. It would live indirectly, in how his sons carried themselves, in how they treated pressure, in how they led others. Legacy doesn't always come with a name attached. Sometimes it comes disguised as influence.
There wasn't much in the way of opportunity for youth football.
This was the breaking point. Not tears, not anger, not regret. Acceptance. Accepting that his contribution would always exist quietly. That the world might never trace success back to him. That silence would be permanent. And that was okay, because he didn't raise his sons to remember him loudly. He raised them to stand independently. to lead without needing validation, to carry pressure without cracking. And in that realization, something settled. The loss didn't disappear, but it gained meaning. He wasn't erased. He was embedded. In discipline, in restraint, in preparation. The strongest foundations are buried deep, and they never ask to be seen. They just hold everything above them steady.
We're in some of the surrounding suburbs, had programs like that for kids, but
Football doesn't last forever. Bodies were down. Crowds move on. Headlines fade. Their father understood that long before the first NFL snap. That's why his focus was never the sport. It was the man left standing after the noise disappears. He prepared his sons for the part of life cameras never follow. Responsibility, discipline, emotional control, the ability to keep going when nobody is cheering. Those lessons don't expire with contracts. They don't retire with age. Long after football ends, those habits remain. And that's where his real work lives. Not in trophies, not in records, in how his sons handle life when the spotlight dims. Careers end quickly. Character doesn't. That was the investment, and it paid dividends beyond the field.
every boy plays. He played baseball, played a lot of hockey.
Legacy is often misunderstood. People think it's something you leave behind. In reality, it's something you build into others. The Kelce father didn't leave a loud legacy. He left a functional one. One that shows up under pressure. One that survives criticism. One that doesn't collapse when expectations rise. His influence isn't visible in highlights. It's visible in restraint, in leadership, in consistency. He didn't teach his sons how to win games. He taught them how to endure seasons. That difference matters, because wins are temporary. Endurance is permanent. The world may never connect the dots, but influence doesn't need recognition to exist. It just needs to hold.
Both of them played, I think Jason was 7, Travis was 5 when they started.
When the Kelce brothers reached the NFL, the story became simple for the public. Talent, work ethic, opportunity. Few mention the man who absorbed decades of pressure without recognition. He didn't stand at podiums. He didn't give viral interviews. He wasn't framed as a hero. He was background, necessary, but uncelebrated. And that kind of invisibility stings more than criticism, because criticism means you were seen. His contribution was assumed, not acknowledged. He didn't correct the narrative. He didn't step forward. He let silence continue. But silence doesn't erase effort. It only hides it. While the world applauded results, he lived with the quiet knowledge that his fingerprints were everywhere, even if his name was nowhere. Recognition wasn't denied because he failed. It was denied because he succeeded quietly.
And after once he got in high school, he switched to basketball because he was pretty good at that.
Silence isn't weakness. It's restraint. And restraint is power. The Kelce father proved that leadership doesn't need volume. It needs consistency. He didn't demand attention. He didn't correct the narrative. He didn't step into the spotlight. He stayed where he was always strongest, behind the structure, holding it steady. That's why this story lingers. Because deep down, we recognize this kind of strength. We've seen it, lived it, or been shaped by it. Greatness doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it works quietly and never stops.
Probably more defining and at a young age for them.
So the next time you watch Travis or Jason Kelce under the lights, remember what stood beneath them. Not noise, not hype. A foundation built quietly over years of sacrifice. A father who lost pieces of himself so his sons wouldn't lose their way. This story isn't about football. It's about the people who make greatness possible and are never thanked for it. If this story hit you, it's because you understand sacrifice. Maybe you've lived it. Maybe you've witnessed it. These are the stories that deserve to be told. If you believe the people behind success matter just as much as the stars, subscribe for more untold stories like this. And tell us in the comments, who in your life stayed silent so you could rise?
Travis or Jason gravitated more towards the Steelers.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss any of our upcoming documentaries.